So we're going to get started now. And today's session, all of these sessions usually have a practice that we do on our mat, and then we do a practice off the mat. And today our focus is really going to be around agility, and it's going to be around the agility of our mind and our body. And this is something that is a core part of the Aura experience that I teach all our clients who enroll in the Aura experience. We focus on making sure that we teach and implement things that don't just make sense when we're meditating, or don't just make sense because they feel good on a mat, but that in fact we can transfer the energy and the lesson and implement it in our life with respect to the way that we work, the way that we interact with others, the way we are in exchange in the world every day. So today's is a very personal favorite of mine, and a little later you're going to find out why agility is of such importance to me. So to arrive, I'm going to ask all of you, if you could, to please stand up, and we're going to do a standing practice. And today I've chosen to start this day with, or start this session with, a Tai Chi moving meditation. And so what this involves is standing up, and if just making sure you can see me as well. Just let me make sure that this works. And so what we're going to do is we're going to stand in a wide stance. And so Tai Chi is beautiful because it is all about recognizing that there is energy within us, and energy even like a millimeter outside our physical being, and that there's waves of energy around us that walk with us all day long. To get into practice here, I'm going to ask you to come in a wide stance. Normally, a wide stance is about 2 of your strides apart, right? So it is not a hip distance. It's probably about 3 times that size. And so that you're nice and low, there should be a good grip. If you have socks, please take them off because you want to make sure that your feet are touching the ground and you're not going to slip. And so when we are pointing our toes, they're pointing out to each corner. And that is a way to gain stability, because if you did this with your feet forward, that would put a lot of strain on your knees. So instead, we're going to point the knees out. And if you point all the way 90 degrees to the side, that's great. I tend to keep mine at about 60, right? And so the idea is that when you lower the hips and you go into somewhat of a squat, that you're able to be comfortably sitting in this space where you can move from side to side. And I'd just like you to start practicing that, right? So when we are moving side to side in Tai Chi, what we're trying to avoid is this kind of a bounce, right? And we're just kind of saying that we're starting to see an even plane and a straight line that we're moving in very seamlessly, okay? And so if you find that doing this is difficult, maybe you are experiencing some kind of discomfort doing this, I encourage you to step back, sit in your chair, and follow us using the arms only, okay? The practice of Tai Chi is very much visualization. It is the oneness with your sight and your hands. And it is also oneness with your breath, which is going to be part of our practice today. So as we're starting to do this, you might actually be confident enough to close your eyes and just listen to the cue. But if you find that I've never done Tai Chi before and I don't really know what you're about to do, I'd like you to start moving your arms, just as I am right now. And so as you do this, you're looking at your palms. I'm going to really slow that down. Inhale onto one side, exhale. And as you drop one arm, the other one picks up. And all we're doing is playing with the space around us. Okay, so inhale and exhale. And as you feel comfortable with this, you do have the option to close your eyes, or you continue following your palm. Physical movement is a great way to start any day, any sitting down activity like a class like this one. And so I really try to get people moving before they sit down, because you will be listening a lot more actively. And so you just continue with your breath. Try and elongate, maybe even slow it down even more. I like calling this swooshing. So what are we swooshing? You can almost say there's this canvas in front of you, and you're just swooshing with your paintbrush. And as you're doing this, you're kind of playing with the air around you. We're just going to continue. You can see that my eyes are closed now because I love doing Tai Chi. I can do Tai Chi for half an hour with my eyes closed. And there's so much visualization in that. And so we're going to start to change the arms. And so now we're swooshing on the sky. And you can make broad strokes of any color into the blue sky, or maybe it's a gray sky for you today, doesn't really matter. Just paint it any color you want. And start to really expand the creativity that goes with this. Following your palms with the breath starts to really enlarge your perception of the space that is happening or is existing around you. You can make it your own. It can be as high and as wide as you like. I hope you're breathing nice and deep like I am. And now we're going to come back to center. And as we come to center, I want you to close your eyes and pretend that in front of you, there is a waterfall now. You've painted the sky, whatever color you like. And the canvas is full of color. And in front of that canvas that you've just painted, there is now a beautiful waterfall. And as I watch you, you're going to take your fingers and run your fingers up that waterfall against the flow of the water and exhale. Inhale as you lift. Very loose elbows, wrists, and fingers, and soft fingertips. And just inhale. Watch that I'm not going up and down. My body is not moving. It's just my palms. For me, the water is lukewarm today, actually. Deep breaths into the belly as you exhale. If you know how to do a dry breath, which is our ocean's breath, do feel free. Otherwise, a lovely, normal, long inhale and exhale is just fine. Start to feel that water resist you and then flow with you, push it down. And as you come to center now, you've decided to put your palms facing each other. I want you to start to just visualize holding an imaginary ball. And if you can perceive that there is actually energy strongly between the two palms in existence now from all of that movement that you just did, become aware that there in fact is something in that space between the palms. And you can play with it. So you can play with it and you can expand the palms and you will start to see how that changes. And if it doesn't for you, that's okay. Just make a ball, make it whatever size you like, and play with it. Even start to feel the sides of it. Imagine if just 2 or 4 minutes of this kind of a practice makes you far more aware of the energy you can create around yourself mindfully. So my ball is here. I want you to take the ball up above your crown. And we're going to make a really big movement here as we let go of our ball. We're going to exhale and fold from the hips. So 1, 2, and 3, and let's go. And back up and hold the ball. So you're going to drop the ball, exhale, inhale, come back up. Ready and go. One more time. And bringing the palms down. Let's arrive. Come back and sit down with me. So today, this is our, well, it's really just our 3rd episode, but it seems to be picking up momentum everywhere. And I'm very grateful, especially for the people who have joined today, whom I have not had an opportunity to meet. So it's really lovely that we meet in this space. For those of you who are not familiar with the Envy mission, this is a startup of mine that I started last year. And we're really invested in bringing self-responsibility, self-leadership, clarity and composure, and social intelligence in various communities. We are actively working to bring this to wonderful human beings such as yourselves. We are also bringing this service to organizations where we know that there is an epidemic of stress and anxiety amongst employees. And also, not too far distant dream of ours is to bring this same service to youth under the age of 25. I have coined the term find your theta. So those of you who were with me in the last session, we talked about the 4 kinds of brain waves that we have and how they each serve us in wonderful ways. And so not to go through all of that science again, but the theta is the 3rd type of brain wave that tends to evolve with time, is the place of absolute stillness between our conscious and our unconscious brain. It is the most alert and awakened state while we are in deep relaxation. So for those of us who are active meditators, this is where we want to get to. And this is where you often see a lot of people kind of be able to sit for long periods of time and be. But before those are your alpha and beta. Maybe I should have a trivia about this. So that's not today's subject, but definitely worth looking up is what does your alpha, beta, theta, and gamma brainwaves do for you? Today, the off the mat practice is really going to focus on mental agility. I've had a lot of people ask me this question, and maybe you get asked this question a lot, is where do you find the time? Where do you find the time to do everything that you do? And it's interesting that I never approach my life with, I need more time, I need more time. I just became aware that as time went by, I was able to fit more and more in because I was getting a lot thrown at me. The amount of things that were being thrown at me was growing. If you have growing responsibilities in the workplace and your children are growing up and there's more picking up, dropping activities, so on and so forth going on, a number of things, the social work, the community work that I wanted to do, and I didn't want to leave it out, on a shelf until I had more time. I began to understand what it meant to be mentally agile. And so today, this is the subject. I would invite you now in the chat, and please don't be shy. This is a very friendly session, and we've had so much participation in the last 2 weeks. So I really ask you to put all your thoughts down when I request. When you look at these 2 pictures, one might be very familiar because it's right from my website. Share 1 word or 2 words that come to your mind when you see these 2 images. I'll also share that the one on the right is a growing interest of mine. His name is Yogendra Singh, a beautiful, beautiful dancer to watch. But as you watch the movement that they're in, please do share. What kind of thoughts or what kind of emotion does it evoke? What do you observe? Free. Yes. Carefree. And those 2 are very different, right? Freedom, as in feeling not weighted at all. And carefree is something quite different because you're not worried and bound by anxiety or worry or stress about what's going to happen next. Here's some really great ones: fearlessness and freedom. Fearlessness, excellent. Happiness, wonderful. Yes. Balancing, excellent. Yes. Going out on a limb completely on those toes and still being balanced. Some of us have to be heroes every day. We're doing this balancing act and we're barely holding it together, right? But being able to hold it together while we're still, at the edge is quite the feat. Flexibility. Yes. How about the one on the left? What do you notice about the one on the left? Flying. Yes. Reaching new heights. Fearless. Trust. Excellent. Yes, trust. Trust that you have done your work and that it is okay to make that leap. Excitement. So there's trust in your environment, and then there's trusting in yourself. Both have to be present. You have to trust what's around you, and you have to trust yourself, and trust that no matter what happens, your effort will pay off one way or another. It may not be the outcome you asked for, but there will be an outcome. And finally, I see here letting go. Yes, there comes a time when we stop analyzing and we just have to take the leap. So many of us are stagnated. So many of us do all the work, but to leap from one cliff to another or one rock to another requires letting go. And it requires that fearlessness that you've just addressed. And yes, the leap of faith, of course. There's always got to be an ounce of that faith to take us forward. Thank you so much. That was really great work. So when I talk about mental agility, we're going to look at 3 different definitions of what that is. And there was no better time, as some of you know, I love climbing mountains. And the reason here, this was the best session for me to show you some of these images, because I find that climbing a mountain really tested my mental agility, not just my physical capabilities, but mostly my mental agility. So let me just try and frame this in this way. So this is the first definition. Mental agility is the ability to quickly shift between having laser focus and seeing the big picture. So I'd like you to see the words that are actually highlighted there. And what I say here is that the quickly doesn't go away. It's our ability to swiftly move from one perception to another, or be able to expand our perception of what is important in the bigger scheme of things, as opposed to what we must focus on now. I put this image of Mount Kilimanjaro. This was the very first mountain that I attempted. And I remember taking a flight over to land in Tanzania and seeing this monstrosity staring back at me, and fear did grip me when you see it from above. When you land and you stand where this picture is taken from, it feels like it's going to take a year to get there. And so very quickly, to manage the fear, what you do is you look at what's in the foreground. And so people who are mentally agile have a habit. They have a habit of looking at things in small spurts. They look at milestones, and they don't look at just the long-term goal. They create milestones. And that perception changes the way they view what is ahead of them. They don't view it as something not doable. They focus on the immediate radius around them that's viewable. That's something that they can attempt. So I love this picture because of the perspective that it gives. Okay, here's a second definition. And so as we climbed this mountain, staring at it some days in fear, but what's interesting about something like this is that there are days that you're walking towards this thing and you never see it. You actually cannot see the mountain. Isn't that very funny? It plays games with your head. Here are some of those days. So here's your second definition: the ability of an individual to think, learn, and again, there's that word, quickly absorb. So the ability to think, learn, and quickly absorb new information systems and processes is mental agility. Embracing new things quickly. And so here's days where, it takes 6.5 days to get to the top. But those days, I can tell you, I honestly, some days didn't know where I was in this big journey, because all you could see was what was around you. Right? All you could see is these cliffs that you had to climb, and they were so formidable that all you could be involved in is that immediate moment. It kept you in the present moment, the danger that lay ahead if you didn't watch what you were doing. What is not apparent here is there's water all the way coming down here. We climbed this mountain in torrential rainfall. There's your mental agility. If we were thinking this was going to be bright and sunny most days, I can tell you right now, 5 out of the 6.5 days was pouring rain, pouring African rainfall, downpour. Those of you who talk about the monsoons in India, then you know what I'm talking about here. And what would be funny is as soon as we got to our tents at night, it would stop. It would stop at like 5, 6, maybe if we, on a good day, we got in at about 5, 6. Sometimes it was nighttime. Here's a change of perception. When you're actually sleeping above the clouds, this is only day 3, right? Mental agility. There is no running water here. There's a lot of not things that you're used to up here, and it's cold, and it's only day 3. So it's perception of even the things you see around you that can scare you, waking up and seeing the clouds down there, and you're right on this edge of this thing here. You were managing fear all the time. And yet, look at these beautiful sights you got to see along the way. So we focused on the immediate. I always say this one reminds me of Lord Ganesha. There are flowers that actually look like this, and it just was mind-blowing to me, the things that you could see if you stopped worrying about everything else that we had yet to come. Also, in this definition, we talk about the new information systems and processes every single day. Because you've never been there, you may have read up, but when you were there, you were being fed all kinds of senses that were new. The water on its own from the skies was just one thing, but it was new information around, oh, it's savanna today, oh, it's cliff climbing today, or it's hilly today, or it's a valley and out 6 times today. There was always new information, and you were navigating through a lot of new things every day. So your ability to absorb it and accept it and let go of what happened the moment before is critical to remaining agile. I'm going to now throw the third and final definition of this, and this takes us to the top of this mountain, where despite not most days would look to me like this photograph where I've got my hands up and you see me standing the edge and all you see in the background is white. That is the most scary thing, because you actually don't know where you are in this thing. You can't see the summit, you can't see the ground, it's all white around you, and you just keep doing your thing. How well our mind can adjust to new circumstances. And so these photos are from the day of summit. You arrive climbing overnight on the day of summit, and you arrive, and if you're lucky, you've made it to, this is us now walking right up there, which is actually the summit, Uhuru Peak. This photo is me now walking away from the peak. And think about the change of perspective here. Up here, there is hardly any oxygen. There's new feedback. I actually did suffer from altitude sickness that entire night. And that was a whole other level of conversation you have to start having with yourself. This is not about how fit you are. This isn't about what happened the day before. This isn't about where you're going to go next. This is about every step overnight for 6 hours, climbing to the top. And, it was more like 8 hours. And one breath, one stride, and managing the sickness. You had an option to turn back. You could turn back saying, I won't make it. If this is how sick I am, I won't make it. But having the conversation with yourself to say, that I can accept this, and I'm going to let go of a lot of things to create space in myself to accept what is happening here, and staying motivated. And that's me just praying at the top, just thanking God I made it somewhere that I know that I intended to get. So this here are the 3 definitions of mental agility, and mountains are great for testing our agility in so many different ways. So I would encourage all of you to think about this now and share with me now in the chat. What are some ways that you have consciously practiced mental agility, or even observed that you are being mentally agile? It can do with any aspect of your life every day that you find it tests you and you have overcome it with your mental agility. I'd love it if you can share some here. I see here, letting the journey unfold before me. So some of you are sharing with me privately. That's great. Please continue to do that. That's absolutely fine. Letting the journey unfold before me instead of worrying about what's happening next. Yes, remaining in the present moment. We hear everyone saying, you got to stay present. You got to stay present. You have to get, and that's easy to say. We all know how tough that is. Mental agility is your ability to what I call return from wherever it is that your mind has wandered, and return to the present moment. Learning as you go. Excellent answer. Yes. Because if you adopt that mindset, we're going to come to that in just a second, learning as you go. If you adopt a learning mindset, a curious mindset, chances are you will be more agile. Be hopeful in all situations. Yes. So perceive abundance. Our ability to perceive abundance when faced with challenges allows us to be more agile in our thinking and our ability to accept and embrace other people's views, perceptions. So it's very important that we're hopeful, that we're positive about what the outcomes could be. Accepting that you don't have answers to all the problems. We don't. Today's leadership quotes are what? A leader doesn't need to be the most intelligent in the room. They don't have to be the smartest person in the room. They don't have all the answers. A leader is somebody who actually knows how to invite people who have some answers and invite them into a space where they can share in a safe manner. So that's a great tip, accepting that you do not have all the answers and that you don't have to try to know them. It's okay to say, I don't know. Let's figure this out. I have someone sharing about a river rafting experience. When I was river rafting, staying focused on the rowing, even when there were level 5 waves. Yes. When the going gets tougher, what do we need to do? Stay focused on our effort. And what do you control? You control how you row. I control how I row. I can't control the water so much, and I don't know what everybody else is going to do, but I'm going to do my rowing. So do your part. Realizing that each time you return somewhere, it may look familiar, but it is actually entirely different. And this is the beauty in all things. No one time and place is exactly the same because the energy changes every time. Either you're different coming into it, even though you've been to that place, or the place is different. Maybe the weather is different, but you've been there before, right? So the energy is always changing. Always know that a familiar place presents infinite opportunities for new things. Taking each experience one at a time to learn from them. Yes, one at a time. Taking each experience one at a time and learning, right? Not just, here's my grand experience of this whole thing, because that's hard to verbalize, but just getting mindful about what is exactly about that experience. Super focused on those things. Being silent, always observe silence. I recently was working with a client and she said to me, I feel silenced in the workplace. And I know we all feel that way sometimes when we're around some very pushy, interesting people, right? Who need to be heard, who need to assert themselves. And then you kind of fear speaking up or against them or something because you just feel like that might provoke a reaction. There is a difference between being silenced and embracing silence as a power. There is a power of silence. And when we're silent, we can actually perceive more. We can accept more, we can perceive more without even responding. And when we do that, we have expanded perception of what our possible solutions are. Again, allowing us to be more agile, be open-minded to other people and other thoughts. Do not read. Oh, here, there's someone saying, do read. You're doing amazing. Thank you. And then there's another one. Oh, yeah, it saves energy. We're going to get to that in a second. And finally, I have a really good one from Priya here. Change is inevitable and it makes you who you are. So keep doing your best and not try to control the outcome. Hasn't that been our theme, Priya? Priya's been awesome. She's been joining us. And this has come up time and time for us, is how we get vested in the outcome we want. I want to be more peaceful. I need to find myself. I need to get to this place by month this. I need to lose 30 pounds by next month. We're so focused on that end state. We just looked at that big mountain and we just talked about how it's important to stay real with milestones. Thanks so much for sharing there. So let's move to this lesson. And these are my 3 tips, okay? And this will end our little lesson section on agility. These are my 3 tips in terms of building mental agility. Number 1, it's called mind your well. Consider your well being the amount of finite energy you might perceive yourself to have. I have a theory in terms of your energy being infinite. But let's talk about the fact that we wake up in the morning with a certain amount of energy in our well. Here are some ways that you mind your well. You create more habits and you create more predictability around you. What that does is it reduces the need for too many decisions that are unnecessary to make every single day repeatedly. Create a repeatability in your day. What that does is it conserves your energy from having to make decisions every day when if there is a cadence in place, you won't need to think about. It'll just work that way. Okay. I'll talk about I can't get my routine in for going to the gym. So 8 a.m. every morning is my routine, 8 to 9. That's my window. 8 to 9, 8 to 9, 8 to 9. That's my habit. Everybody in my household knows it. They know not to see me at that time. So there's a predictability around that. People work around that. So there's no decision making to make there. You conserve energy by making these decisions this way, and then you're able to redirect energy where it is needed because you do have to respond in an agile way to things that you didn't expect. Second thing, focus on innovation and creativity earlier in the day. So if you're somebody who sort of apportions certain parts of your day and you just go, you know what, I'm a morning person like I am. I get a lot of my creativity work done in the morning. I actually try to do my brainstorming sessions, my design work in the morning. If I need to have a contentious conversation with someone, I tend to do it in the mornings, right? Why? Because I'm fresh of mind. I've done my practice in the morning. I'm rested. And chances are that all of that will go a lot better when you can apply your full mind, mindfulness, full mind. Whereas we leave some of the other stuff to later in the day, that's called minding your well. Okay. Number 2, mind your assumptions and preferences. And somebody answered here and saying, learning to let go, right? Listening to other people, being open is a way that we create agility. How do we do this? Question your own perception. How do we do that? By remaining silent. There is no need to respond immediately. So when you are faced with something, rather than immediately thinking I'm going to respond, we all have the responsibility, i.e. the power to respond, the ability to respond. But even a gap of silence and a breath in between might give you the chance to look at the picture a little bit differently than just your own perception. Perhaps allow you to be in that other person's shoes or multiple people's shoes. Allow you to see other factors that play into the bigger problem as opposed to what you see as the problem. The second thing you can do is express your opinions with humility. So watching your communication patterns. Don't necessarily go, well, I don't want that. I like it this way. I prefer things this way. Well, there's your little box. You just made it. It's very fixed. And when it's very fixed, it gets really frustrating when other people want to kind of push those boundaries. So minding your assumptions, being aware of your limited preferences here that limit your perception of things. Express your opinions with humility. How do you do that? You ask more questions. You show a state of curiosity as opposed to statements. Seek to understand and seek to understand more. Because the more you stay stuck in your place with your own thoughts, with your own judgments, with your own preferences, with your own beliefs that tell you I can and cannot do those things, the more you will stagnate. And then it's hard to get agile in that space because it's quite limited. It almost feels claustrophobic in that space. Here's number 3. We all know this. Those of you who are part of the gang at Bali Soul Fit, my wonderful group there. Thank you for joining today. Mind your mind and body. So this is not just about mindset. This is about knowing that your body possesses an immense amount of power to change your energy. So exercise physically changes up energy in your body continually. If you don't know how to change it up here, move physically. It's what we just did, right? You arrived in a place. Maybe you came from putting your kids to sleep. Maybe you just cleared the dishes in the sink. Maybe you came from outside. Maybe you were in a phone conversation. The point is, we started with some physical movement. It wasn't even very long, but it relieves some of the lethargy and the emotional addictions that we have, eating being one of them. And then minding the inner chatter with yourself, being in your head all the time. Again, exercise is wonderful for that. Stops the chatter because you got to be here now, do the movement, the physical movement. Practicing what I call the return. If there's one thing you take away from today, please take away this phrase, the return. The return from where it is that your brain was to where it should be right now. And learning to call it back over and over again, even doing it unconsciously because you practice. If you have a mindfulness practice and it's inbuilt in you, you will do this without even knowing that you're doing it. So I say to everyone, establish a mental practice. If you don't know what that means, talk to me. If the reading isn't making sense, I'd be happy to just chat with you about it. But learn how to establish a mental practice that works for you, because one practice doesn't work for everyone. Mindfulness is a plethora of different types of tools and practices and techniques. Everyone responds to different things, but it's worth your while to try every one of them to know. I'm going to take a couple of minutes here for this last question, if you would share with me. What do you think prevents people from being able to be mentally agile? And I won't say every day, but more so nowadays, you find people saying, I'm really controlling who my friends are these days. I'm really protecting my circle. Because through COVID, I don't know, we had some revelations about who cares about us and who doesn't care about us. There's a wonderful talk on YouTube. I call it wonderful just because I watch it all the time and I'm the one who made it. But I was so compelled to tell people that we've made our worlds a lot smaller by doing so. And it doesn't serve us as human beings to play small. So if we've decided to make our circle of 5 friends, because those are the friends who understand me, they have common interests with me, and they keep me in my comfort zone. I personally have a bit of a disagreement with that to say, then how do we expand? So while I do believe that we should be very careful in discriminating about the types of energies we allow in our space, I think that our perception of who our friends are, what our friends should do for us, what we should be doing for our friends needs to expand. And so if you've watched that talk, it's about friendship with purpose. And I would encourage you to watch that and share your thoughts with me and say, I agree with this, or no, I don't agree with this. But I think that our relationships with people need to serve community. And you have masses of people that are just waiting for you to make an impact on them. So by you staying in your little bubble here, it's not going to change anything. Find that place of impact. And that's going to require some agility. So share with me quickly, if you could, what prevents people from being mentally agile? I'm very eager to get to our meditation. We have 15 minutes, so I'll take even a couple of answers on this one. Fear. Fear of what? Fear of not getting their way. Fear that things won't turn out exactly the way they want. Being comfortable in their comfort zone. Correct. Yes. Loving the comforts. Oh, there's 2 people. Comfort zone. Absolutely. Right? We like the things we like. We like them the way they are. Right? We're really comfortable here. Hesitation or fear. Fear of not succeeding. Fear of failure. And yet mental agility is such a gift when we fail. If we fail and we climb out of that space and we are stronger and wiser and ready, that in itself is a great exercise of agility. right? We won't know how agile we are unless we fail. Past bad experiences, yes, we've all had those times that set us back, and then we don't know how to get out of those places. I agree. Less tolerant of differences with age. We're more stuck in our ways as time goes by. And nowadays, if you're working in an office, how many of you are dealing with the millennials and the different generations and the neurodiversity around generational differences? Our workplace has changed significantly. And if you don't know how to be more tolerant and have more bandwidth, this is probably the biggest time in the human race for that kind of testing. And finally, fear of rejection. Yes. Okay. Thank you for sharing with me. We're going to go into practice to close this off. And here's where we're going to go with this next. Last week, I taught everybody a few things about breathing. Breathing is a subject I could keep covering for the next 10 sessions, but there was the scientific part of it that I explained last week. But here's the other part of it. Why do we breathe? We breathe because it helps us invoke a sense, an awareness of the power to observe. It helps us withdraw from the external. It's a way to become present if you stay with your breath. And that is a muscle, by the way. This is a cognitive skill. The return is a cognitive skill. Breath is a way to get there. It is a way that we align our physical being with our logical, mental being, along with our emotional. It's a way to unify. And just like we did in our practice just now, by doing those movements, big movements, creative movements, visualizing colors, expanding the space as big as you want in your head, you're basically reorganizing your focus and your energy from what it is. So keeping those benefits in mind, or why it is that we start a practice of breath work, I would ask you to take any position. I am a person who loves to sit on the floor, but as I instruct you, I am not going to be on the floor. If you have the yoga cushion that is my best friend, if you haven't got one of these off Amazon, please get one. I'm telling you, just get it. Even if it is to sit in your living room and not sit on a sofa, do it. But you can sit on a floor, and you know that on that cushion, you can sit cross-legged. Your legs are below your hips, and you can roll your hips forward. So that's one way to do it. I like yin yoga poses. So if there's an empty wall, no one can see you, by the way, you're not on camera, do whatever you like. Find that wall. And so you see these pictures show you all of your options. Assume any one of these positions and just get super comfortable. I'm actually hoping most of you will opt to do either the lying down against a wall, or you can just lie down in Shavasana or in corpse position, where it's just lie down on a yoga mat, feet hip distance apart, or sit on the floor. If none of those suit you and you still want to sit in your chair, I'm going to ask you to keep both of your feet on the ground. And arrive by first just closing your eyes. For the next little while, I will ask you to listen to the instructions. And as you do that, I also want you to embrace this moment. Welcome this moment and this moment and this moment, which is so existential, as is our breath. It is imminent. It is here always, good, bad, up, down. It's here. And I would like you to stay in this moment and the next, as opposed to everything that you've heard today. Just keep the mind focused on the breath. Your shoulder blades, if you're on the ground, are firmly placed far apart on the ground below you. Your hips fully trusting that ground that holds us, the earth that holds our being, upright. So surrender the weight, surrender all of those body parts that are holding up for you, sitting, standing all day, walking, whatever it is you're doing, and allow them to be carried. The hips, the torso, the back, the shoulder blades, the back of the head. Your palms either on your sides, palms facing up. You can also place them on your belly if you like to feel your breath. And as you start to breathe, shifting to what we call, and we learned this last week, it's called a box breath. Very simple. We're going to actually practice it for longer. The box breath neutralizes. It's called even breath, even thought. In extreme pain of any kind, or in extreme joyfulness of any kind, this breath has a way of neutralizing, bringing you back to middle. It does not put you to sleep. And so let's begin. And what we're doing with our eyes is the gaze has gone inward and you are focusing on the space that is just behind the eyebrows. Begin to breathe to counts of 5. And so what we're doing is we're going around a square. There are 4 sides to this square. We're going to walk. And we're going to inhale on one side, exhale on the next through the mouth, inhale on the third side, exhale through the mouth on the fourth. Each side takes 5 counts. Let's begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale through the mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn 2, 3, 4, 5. Return 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And continue on your own. I will stop my count. Keep walking around that square. Return every time you wander, return. You can grow your square. You can expand your breath. Or you can just stay with the 5 counts. Whatever you do, stay focused on this task. It's a small one. It's a small habit. Got lost, come right back with compassion. Keep counting in your head. Maybe you even lost count. That's okay, come back. More importantly, the breath is descending each time deeper and deeper. It descends. Observe, does it stay in your chest? Is it staying in your chest in and out? Or is it going deeper and deeper to the base of the spine? that dissolve. Gently just letting go of that square. Keeping the eyes firmly closed and really curious by looking within. There is this beautiful depth where all of our needed answers reside. We must train ourselves to access those answers. For there is the treasure of our power, our true potential within. We're skimming the surface in life every day with not enough capacity or time to dive in. But the more we can, even in baby steps, we uncover these beautiful little gems of greatness in terms of our own abilities and the immense abundance that resides within us. Here we can observe how we reacted when we could have paused. We're completely safe here. We can accept responsibility. We can acknowledge our mistakes. We can respond without emotional interruption or distraction. Return. We are born with this power. We are not taught how to nurture it. That is what we're doing. Our true essence, or this life force, actually was within us. This power to be wondrous and curious, and this incredible capacity to create and expand our perception was already there. It's innate. It is indestructible. It is just waiting to be found. When we were children, remember our most prized memories of play. There's one thing that you might remember, it's when you played. At least one good thing. We were told stories and then we adopted those stories to be our own. And that changed our emotion and our thinking patterns. And as so, our world has become smaller. So when you go in within, there resides the reality, the true reality, what I call the real reality. Not what you have in your limited perception, but in that big universal perception, where all things are just as they are to be. They just are. They're neither this or that, good or bad, up or down, nice or not. They just are. Continuing to breathe. Effortlessly. with love, gratitude for all that you are and all that you have. Welcome to your self-awareness. Embrace it. Greet it every day. As we part ways, my friends, keep your eyes closed. Enjoy this space. I'm filled with gratitude that you chose to spend these last hours or minutes with me today and with this wonderful group of people. I'm always amazed at who shows up here. And I hope that you'll join us. We have the same session happening tomorrow at 3. I plan to do a different meditation. And if not, then we'll see you next week. Try to come to these regularly. We'll always be exploring amazing things and inspiring each other. Have a wonderful night.